Ian, thanks very much for joining us today. Ian Slattery is an investment consultant with Zurich, and as Shankill Financial Services enters its 10-year anniversary, I thought it'd be a good idea to catch up with Ian over the last 10 years and maybe look to the future to see what the next 10 years is like. We, Seven Wayne, set up our business 10 years ago. We met in the school gates, dropping our kids off to their first day in school. And in the midst of, I suppose, a global crisis, we kind of said, let's go out on our own. We joined our business together. Thankfully, the 10 years has been good for us. What's it been like for the markets?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and thank you for yourself and the team having me along today. So, like, the stock market since 2020 has told its own story, kind of mirroring what we've seen in Ireland in terms of an economic recovery. It's always a series of ups and downs with stock markets, and I've just brought on some of the kind of main points some people might remember. We had this kind of concept of the flash crash. We had the Eurozone sovereign crisis, which we definitely remember in Ireland. That was very much a time when a local issue became an international one. Brexit and Trump, and we'll come back to that, I'm sure, was 2016. And you can see the really large drop that we saw in 2020 in terms of the COVID pandemic. So stock markets are always interesting. There's always ups and downs, and they go on their own journey as well. But it has been a positive decade for the stock market overall, and hopefully for you and the guys in Shankill as well.
Yeah, it's been a good 10 years. We've expanded ourselves, but Brexit. By the time 2016 came along, we had added 2 more staff to the business. We kind of felt that we needed to keep in contact with clients more, to be able to update them on funds and performances, and also when the likes of Brexit happens, to be able to react to information. The market volatility that happened, we need to be able to keep up to date with them and keep passing information. What do you think? Like, how do you keep in contact with people, or how do you feel you handle volatility with clients?
Yeah, and if I just kind of zoom in maybe on the 2016 point, which is the shaded area I have on the slide here, but if I just go in a little bit further to tell that story of the year, and what I have highlighted is the Brexit vote, which is the end of June 2016, and here we are still talking about it quite a few years later. And actually, that's the US election then at the start of November 2016. And I think this is why communication is really, really key, because if you would come into the start of 2016 and said the UK would vote to leave the European Union, and the TV celebrity Donald Trump will come from nowhere to become the next US president, you would have assumed you would have lost money in the stock markets, because they're 2 big shocks that people wouldn't have expected. However, it's not only predicting or forecasting the event, but people's reaction to it as well. And I think that's where you see the perfect marriage between investment markets and financial advice and the communication piece. Because there's various points along the way. We actually had a very poor start to 2016 in general, over down 14%. But the reaction to Brexit was short and sharp, and there was a recovery, and similar to the Donald Trump election. And the stock market actually ended up the year for just over 10%. So it is important for people to understand the implications of what happens in markets and try and stick with the plan. And if I just kind of make that point in a wider sense, just coming back to this idea of what we've seen over the last decade, this is just the calendar year, so each individual year's returns for the stock market since 2010. Now, there was negative years in 2011 and 2018, but a broadly positive picture along that way. But there's always going to be events every couple of weeks or months that'll trip people's psyche up, and you'll want to move out of markets or whatever it might be. But keeping kind of a constant and clear communication as an investment manager is important, and it's probably even more important from a financial broker or financial advisor perspective. And I think 2016 is a very good example of understanding what happened and how it may not actually mean as much as you might think to you and your pension or investment.